Hi, welcome to Recap House. Today we are going to recap the movie named Soldier Boy. It was released in 2019. It is a film based on the true story of a 6-year-old boy, Russia's youngest hero of World War II. The film starts in Russia, where a group of 3 sit by the waterway, partaking in their time. The most youthful of them, Sergei Alyoshkov, boasts to his senior sibling and mother about him being on top of a tree when unexpectedly, German warrior jets soar over. The mother asks her children to rapidly conceal in the shrubs, yet the 6-year-old cases he isn't frightened and hits the stream with a slingshot. Amazingly, he figures out how to stir things up around town and detonate them. Be that as it may, when he glances around, his family is no more. Sergei awakens, scared from the fantasy, and requires his mom. All of a sudden, somebody thumps on his entryway. Expecting it is his mom, he runs towards it. However, a neighbor lady comes in overreacting. She says thanks to God for keeping him alive and informs him that his mom and siblings are dead. The young man can't understand what she is talking about and needs to remain in the house to sit tight for his mom. The lady lets him know that the Germans have gone after them and that he ought to take off. All of a sudden, a few warriors approach their home. The lady makes Sergei run through the window, however, is shot dead before she can go along with him. The little 6-year-old is presently all alone with no family and companions. As Sergei takes off from the house, he sees his entire area consuming behind him. He requires his mom to no end and takes off from that point. Subsequent to running for some time, he winds up in the center of the forest. The young child begins to require his mom to come and get him since he is lost. That evening, he remains in the wilderness. The next morning, we see him hydrate from a waterway when the aggressors approach his direction. Sergei, realizing that they are risky, rapidly conceals inside a tree's underlying foundations. He is surprised when a snake comes close by, however doesn't express a word or take off. Sergei is more frightened of the troopers than of the snake. The troopers eat by the waterway and disappear, after which Sergei takes their extra food and gobbles up it for the evening. Notwithstanding, before the day's over, the young man is depleted. He hasn't had a legitimate dinner in 2 days. Furthermore, has been strolling with no objective. He tumbles down as he limps, however doesn't quit strolling. While on his way, he sees wild berries and eats up them. Yet all of a sudden, a blast happens behind him. Shocking him, the kid gets tipsy and begins to fantasize somebody coming behind him. Nonetheless, even in such circumstances, he stands valiant and tells the individual he has a rifle and isn't frightened. He limps forward yet falls oblivious sooner or later. While he is sleeping, 2 fighters approach him. The scene slices to the Russian armed force base where Commandant Kuznetsov hangs tight for his watch fighters. They come in with the small child who is harmed and feeble. At the point when the officers guarantee they are his ally, the young man opens up and presents himself. The troopers chuckle when the youngster shakes his hand with the officer, recommending he present himself as well. The troopers feel tender with the small child and circle him around. They make him hydrate and feed him. Indeed, even the generally cool authority deals with the youngster. A medical caretaker named Katya dresses Sergei's injuries and is enchanted by his character as well. The youngster requests that she draw a tank on his injuries since he needs to be a trooper when he grows up. Indeed, even the harmed officers converse with the youngster and feel lighter. Sergei is entranced with the authorities' weapon and his cluster. The administrator also answers every one of the young man's inquiries and allows him to play with his privileged gun subsequent to taking the slugs out. Sergei shows him the tank drawn on his stomach and flaunts about being a trooper himself. The kid is recuperating rapidly. The medical attendant Katia requests that the authority let the kid stay with the force. However, he dissents, guaranteeing that it won't be protected. He needs to send Sergei to a shelter. The fighters invested all their free energy with Sergei. He is visited by quite a few people over the course of the day. They bring him food sent by their families from a remote place and surprisingly let him play with their optics. At some point, a trooper goes to the officer to request that he let the kid stay with the brigade. The fighters have grown a nearby association with the youngster and consider him their own. His presence takes the heaviness of battle off their mind. In any case, the leader is resolved about sending the kid to the shelter for his own well-being. The next day, the foes assault. Also, many troopers are harmed. A vehicle comes to get Sergei to take him to the halfway house. The officer tells the youngster and gives him a wooden privileged gun as a gift. The kid thus embraces him, guaranteeing that he is terrified for the officer's well-being. The leader liquefies in his hug and alters his perspective. He requests that Sergei stay with the troopers as his child. That evening, the troopers search for little fighter garments for the young man, and they are excited to have Sergei stay with them. The leader awakens Sergei and gives him the garments. He wears them and goes around, seeming to be a genuine warrior. The others begin calling him their little trooper kid. As the youngster goes around, the Germans send off an air assault on the force. The warriors rapidly take Sergei to a protected spot and battle the others. The quantity of harmed warriors develops quickly. Sergei needs to make himself valuable, so he carries water to parched officers. One of them requests that he read a letter sent by his family since he has a swat over his eyes. The young man needs to help, yet doesn't have the foggiest idea how to peruse. He takes the letter and fires, making up the things composed on it, guaranteeing that the trooper's cow is protected back home. At the point when the officer says he doesn't have a cow, the others advise him to oblige the story and giggle. He peruses every other person's letters in similar design and encourages them. In the accompanying scene, we see Katia and the leader talking. The two appear to be drawn to one another, yet don't admit their sentiments. Afterward, Sergei lets the administrator know that he is of the methodical situation in the force and starts presenting himself as one. In any case, the kid then, at that point, sees one of the fighters' stations annihilated from the assault. The leader helps him to salute and offer appreciation to the dead trooper. The following day, he demands the officer give him a mission and is given an errand to disperse the letters among the troopers. He finishes his job effectively and even makes the officers dance for him. The next day, Sergei goes somewhat distant from the base with his optics. As he is playing with it, he sees somebody's leg moving from inside a pile. He surges back to the force and enlightens the troopers concerning his discoveries. The warriors have misgivings. Be that as it may, go with the kid at any rate. At the point when they arrive close to the pile, they're made aware of seeing two German covert operatives stowing away under. The covert operatives are captured, and the youngster is applauded for his knowledge. That evening, the administrator shows Sergei the lawful papers for his reception. He is currently formally the youngster's dad. Sergei is aware of the commandant's affections for Katia, thus to reimburse his benevolence. He takes him to admit to her. Be that as it may, the two see her conversing with an alternate man and unjustly expect she is keen on another person. The base is gone after by the Germans once more. This time, Sergei assists the officers energetically by providing ammo to the fighters in the forefront. However, the troopers there order him to return to the shed since it is excessively perilous outside. At the point when he comes to the shed, he sees the authority and others overreacting in light of the fact that the telephone's association with the colonel is lost. a fighter is shipped off to fix the wrecked wires. Sergei follows the officer and sees he has been lethally injured. He asks the withering warrior how he can fix the wires. What's more, do it without anyone else's help. The association returns and more soldiers are called. The 6-year-old saves everybody's life. Afterward, we see the administrator and Katya talking by the stream. The administrator at last admits his affection for herself and requests that she be Sergei's mom. Katya is elated, yet before she can say anything, a fighter approaches them and gives the officer a letter saying they have been dispatched from the base. The next day, every one of the fighters leave for their new base alongside Sergei. Notwithstanding coming, they go over a minefield that brushes off a portion of their vehicles. The administrator is harmed while the gathering's organizer, who Sergei was close with, passes on in the blast. He cries and embraces the officer. They convey the charmed ones with them and proceed with their excursion to their new base. At the point when they at last arrive at the other base, they meet the commandant's chief, the general. He also is intrigued by the youngster's desire and compliments the commandant for having such a savvy kid. The next day, their division is granted a watchman's pennant, as is the kid. He vows to save his nation when the general gives him his clump. One evening, their base is gone after fiercely, and the authority is caught under the vestiges. Sergei sobs for his dad and attempts to save him. He calls different officers, who at long last brings the officer out. The following day, Sergei approaches a harmed officer. His hands were harmed while attempting to save the authority. The youngster is presently an indistinguishable piece of the group. He doesn't have a family close to them and moves any place they go in the conflict. The film closes as the regiment is seen moving to another base. A voice behind the scenes portrays that he even participated in the Stalingrad fight. Also arrived at Poland with the troopers. He is right now known as the world's most youthful fighter ever, and the unbelievable story of his dauntlessness is presently spread so that the entire world could hear. Thanks for watching. Please, if you liked the video, subscribe and do give the thumbs up to help the channel.